expand participation in our democracy, which would be my job as the chief elections official, and also to register businesses as the chief business registrar. But I wanted to make it my mission to engage everyone in the state.
Reinforce what Derek said.
Before we begin, I did want to make an announcement. One of our dear friends of the organization and a personal friend, Greg Fritz, is here from New York, and wanted to ask me to announce a Polish-American conference that they're organizing, the Konferencja Alliance, which is a organization of young Polish Americans, not only from the United States, but also from around the world. I had the pleasure of speaking at the conference and participating last year, and there were just dynamic Polish Americans from Washington, from Wall Street, from Silicon Valley, from Scotland, from Germany, and all over the world. And this conference takes place on February 7th, I believe it is this year. It's a two-day event which concludes with the Polonaise Ball hosted by our friend Blanca Rosenstiel in Miami. So it's probably one of the best weekends to get away to Miami in the middle of February. So Konferencja Alliance is the name of the organization. If anybody's interested, I do encourage you looking them up. They do amazing work as far as activating the next generation of...
Adam Michnik was speaking, and he sat at my table. I was there because my wife, Marilyn Purick, let me tag along with her. And during that dinner, Adam Michnik said something like this, and I don't know because I've talked to Adam since then, whether it was exactly the way he said it or it was Elżbieta Motynia's brilliant translation of it. But he said that democracy is not a noun, it's a verb. It's a never-ending process. It's not something that you have, it's something that you make every day. And I've thought about that almost every day since then. And it's been my pleasure to share part of my life with one of Connecticut's great democracy makers, Senator John Konferencja. We, for a time in our young adulthoods, we lived across the street from each other on Linmore Street in Hartford, in a section of Hartford called Forster Heights. And that section of Hartford has always been the census tract or voting district in the state that's had the highest rate of voter participation in every election, including town committee primaries, and I'll get to that in a second. But I think that place made John. He grew up there, and he made that place. And that's how placemaking works. Places make us and we make them. But we first knew each other running against each other in the first competitive town committee primary in Connecticut that we each had opposite slates. My slate won 5 out of the 9 seats and his won 4. And shortly after the election, the town committee bosses gave jobs to 4 of my running mates, and they thought they had all of their slate, John's 3 running mates and himself. But what they didn't know is that they didn't own John. And so what looked like a 5-4 victory turned out to be a 7-2 defeat, with John and I the 2. But what I can tell you is that how much change 2 uncorrupted, unbought people can make. And we cracked the foundation of that machine and brought it down over the next decade. John went on shortly to run for state representative against a multi-term incumbent, and he asked Marilyn and I to manage his campaign. John wore out 2 pairs of shoes making democracy in that race, going door to door, knocking on every door in that district, as he's done in many races. But this was the first one, And we were so focused on the next door and the next press release and the next event that we forgot to rent a hall for the victory party because we were never sure we were going to win. At any rate, when we won, we called up the local tavern and said, "Do you mind if 100 people come over?" And that was far and away the best night in my political life, and I suspect in his. And he went on to become a state senator, and he was young enough when he first became state senator that he's now one of the longest serving state senators, if not the longest. And with that senior that brings, he has worked his way in.
Asking me to be here today. I learned a lot in the conference. Derek, I want to say you're doing a great job, and I look forward to coming back again. During the break, I had a chance to read your mission, and I don't know if any of you have taken a few moments to read it, but it does speak to the number of Americans of Polish heritage and the long history of Poland in terms of creating democracy in this world of ours, and the speakers today who spoke to that. And yet, as it says in the mission, how few Polish Americans are in fact involved politically. And it's long been a concern of mine that is a sad reality in our country and a sad reality for the Polish community. And why is that? Why is it that so few Poles choose to become involved politically in this country? Connecticut is an example of that, with a very large Polish population, and yet we have so few elected officials of Polish descent at the local level, at the state level, and none that I know of anyway, at the federal level. And I have the distinction, the honor of sitting with two people who I have great respect for. You heard earlier from former Secretary of State Susan Weissowitz and my colleague Terry Giartana, both of Polish descent, but the list is short in the Connecticut legislature. Susan was one of our constitutional officers, but you can count on one hand in Connecticut's history how many Poles reached that level of success. And you can count on one or two hands the number of Poles who have risen to the position of commissioner in the state of Connecticut. It was often where there was
neighborhood and being surrounded by people, of the Polish heritage and ethnicity. It was always just, the regular thing.